Well, hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It's great to be with you on the Inspirations for Your Life show. Today, ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, it's May 5th and it's Tuesday, 2026, and happy Cinco de Mayo Day. For those of you that celebrate, I know today I went to a bar that had Cinco de Mayo items on their menu. I had a taco. I actually had two tacos for lunch and one I took home. I got the chicken taco, the beef taco, and then the rib taco. And they were all pretty good. And they had like a salad on it. So I had two for lunch, brought one home, and then I had a little brownie with two ice cream scoops. So that was really good. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is your very first time joining me here, I want to say thank you. And of course, welcome. If you've been here one time or many times in the past, I want to say thank you. But of course, I want to say welcome back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're thirsty, you're hungry, you're parched, feel free to go get yourself something. I have my delicious RO water with lemon. And yeah, get whatever you like and come on back to the show. All right, guys, don't forget to check out believemeachieve.com for, of course, more of my amazing, inspiring creations, which you can do right after the show is over. But now, let's kick this show off. All right, everyone? Okay. So this is Inspirations for Your Life. This is Series 5, Show 19, Episode 4. And it's all about how people rebuild direction when everything gets disrupted. That's our master topic for the entire week. Our master topics go from Saturday and they end on Friday. This episode of Inspirations for Your Life with myself, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, passionate lifelong learner, and now, ladies and gentlemen, a published author. Very grateful for that. And I'm exploring how people rebuild identity after disruption forces a reset in it, and the direction because the habits and the thinking changed. This week focuses on one of the most important phases of transformation. Each day we're uncovering more. Not motivation, not momentum, but your identity, reconstruction. Because when everything around you changes, the first thing that must change is how you see yourself. You see, ladies and gentlemen, how you see yourself is a big factor to whether you're going to be successful or not. I mean, that's the truth, guys. You see yourself a certain way, other people see yourself that way. When disruption happens, guys, most people focus on the external recovery first. Seems logical, but we have to work on what's inside us, okay? And fix those systems before the outside systems can work perfectly. Fix the routines, fix the structure. But the deeper layer is the internal piece inside us. Identity. Because identity drives behavior, and behavior drives outcomes. So if identity is unstable, everything else remains unstable too. At first, ladies and gentlemen, identity does not change loudly. It shifts or pivots quietly through awareness. Now, through repetition, through reflection, through experience, and through small behavioral adjustments that slowly accumulate into something new. That's important, guys. Identity begins shifting. That is number one. I think when we realize that our identity is shifting, we're first like, oh my gosh, it's like the sky's falling. Like, what are we supposed to do? And it's not a time to panic. It's a time to analyze what's going right and maybe what's not going right. I think that's a very important thing to think about. A lot of people, they panic when they're in this stage, and they shouldn't panic, guys. If you went down the same path over and over and over again, well, that would be a problem, guys. That would absolutely be a problem. So you're recognizing that something's not working right, and you want to change that. You want to change that. And so you can change that if you truly believe that you can. I think that's a very important thing to realize. And so when we think about, the way things are, okay, I think that's important to note. And when I say note, I mean we need to express what it is that we want to change. So we'll make something verbal, then life can change for us. But life doesn't just change because we want to change it. We've got to be, ladies and gentlemen, intentional. I've been using that word a lot this week, and there's a reason for it. When we're intentional, our life becomes different. Our life acts on purpose. Our life acts on purpose. And when our life acts on purpose, I feel that there's a lot that's going to happen for us, a lot of good things that are going to happen to us, okay? Number two, guys, old habits will weaken us. Now, there's some habits that are good, and there's some habits that are extremely bad. So an old habit that's taking you down the wrong path is definitely the wrong thing to do, okay? It's the wrong thing to do because when you go down that wrong path, it's like I keep looping. I keep doing that same thing over and over again. I think that's hard for a lot of people to, to understand that they're going down the wrong path. Not because, I just say not because, they want to go down that path. But was actually having some almonds, and I think the almond, I had some water, just got a little dry there for a second. Had some ice cream, and then I had some homemade, like almond. They're like they're like with paste. One of our friends made them for us, and they have like these the nuts, and they're very good. And they have the almond paste in them. They're really, really good cookies. So number three, new habits will form. If the new habit doesn't form today, don't panic, guys. It will form tomorrow. It will form the next day. And when it forms, it gives you a sense of, where you're going. I think that's got to be one of the most important things that I can share with you. Okay? It changes where we are. And when I say it changes where we are, it changes our dynamic. It changes our direction. All right. I think sometimes people, they get themselves all stressed out. And the reason they do this is because they're worrying. Okay. They're worrying about things. And that worry, I think, is a very bad problem. They worry, and the situation, guys, guess what happens? It gets worse. It gets worse. Because what we put our attention on, okay, that's where the energy is going to go. Because we're focusing on it. Number four, guys. Number four is this. Self-preparation is important. But self-perception will truly change us. I said our perceptions create our reality. Our world is all about perceptions, okay? It's all about perceptions. And that's a very important thing to understand, that it's about perceptions. And the perceptions we have are, how can I say, not exactly what we would expect. Because let's face it, guys, we're hard on ourselves. We're extremely difficult. So we've got to learn to be kind to ourselves. I think that's one of the hardest things. I had this challenge too. Sometimes, you keep pushing yourself, but you got to treat yourself kindly. You got to give yourself a break. We deserve a break, guys. We deserve a break. Okay. Number five, behavior becomes intentional. So when the behavior becomes intentional, then we become in alignment with what we want and what we are doing. Alignment and intentionality don't happen overnight, guys. They do not happen overnight. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that they happen in time when we are consistent, when we have a structure. I've said before that if we have a structure and we're not consistent, you can't have one without the other. They have to coexist together for us to be successful, for us to notice positive improvements. Number 6, guys, confidence rebuilds. When we're confident, the world changes. The world unfolds to something pretty amazing. And so, pretty important. Thanks so much for the like, Joe. Appreciate that. By the way, you asked about book signing. So our first book signing is coming up on May 26th. It's on jasonacademy.com. It's going to be May 26th, 7 p.m. at the Franklin Lakes Public Library on the first floor in the Ranieri Room. But all that's available at jcmacademy.com. So you can check that out there. And it is the first one. There's going to be more. I think the next one we've got coming up is in either Oakland or Wyckoff. And then we have another one coming up in Wayne in September. So we're just starting to fill the calendar. But they're all going to be on jasonacademy.com. And you'll see them under featured events. So definitely take a look at that. But thanks so much for the like tonight. Actions. Our actions define our direction. When our actions become in alignment to our identity, our success becomes natural. You know, it's like trying to force, you've heard the analogy, right? A square through a round hole, right? A square peg through a round hole. Can't do it. Put a round peg through the square, but you can't put a square peg through a round hole because the round hole is going to be a little bit smaller, assuming it's the same kind of, size proportion. When we understand where we're going and we know that we're being intentional, life starts to unfold and show us some very pleasant surprises. Number 8, guys, consistency shapes identity. Being consistent, structured, and when we understand that consistency and we understand that structure, we naturally parlay into success. Consistency is not easy to stay on board with. I'll be honest. Some people are like, well, I don't know if I can do this. Okay. I don't know if I really can do this, but you can. Okay. And so, when you understand these things, life changes for you. Life changes for you because things are magical. Okay. Your body likes it when things flow. And when we can do things with least amount of resistance, things become easier for us, right? Number 9, experience reshapes the thinking we have. So maybe we don't like what we're doing right now. No problem with that. But when we start to realize that, then we know that we're actually thinking. And when we reshape our thinking, our perceptions, they change. The things people would say, I can't do this, I'm not that, they change. That all just disappears. When our identity changes, all that fades. Remember, your thoughts become your reality. Now, not thinking at one time, but what happens is people think at one time and they don't realize how many times they've thought about it, maybe thousands of times. Once you thought about it once, it becomes like an autopilot, and now you just kind of just drive that nail in a bad way, right? Number 10, guys, beliefs begin updating. We understand our identity, positive or negative, the beliefs start to update. They start to update for us, and then we get a new output. And I think that output sometimes scares us because we're like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do now? How am I going to do this? Right? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And you could do this in a pretty amazing way. Okay? Because your beliefs update. When your beliefs update, your internal software, right, changes. And eventually, when the software gets updated, it actually updates our hardware. In our case, it's actually our biology, which is our organs and things like that. And yes, we can change our biology, of our body when we act a certain way consistently with a structure. Number 11, guys, standards increase. When the standards increase, the world says yes. The world says there is no impossibility. I think that's a very important thing to realize and to understand. The expectations rise, and when they rise, number 12, people are like, hey, I can do this. This isn't so hard. I did this all on my own. Number 13, focus becomes stable. When our focus becomes stable, we notice that doing things becomes a lot easier than it was in the past. Now, that doesn't mean that we were less smart in the past. It means we got a new perception of how something was being presented. And when our perception changes, our reality changes. Again, not overnight. Number 14, guys, discipline defines our character. We talk about identity, we talk about core values, and they all link into our character, who we are as a person every day. If I asked you right now, what's your character? You're going to be like, I don't know. I don't work for any of the, cartoon companies. That's not even my character. Character defines how you show up in the world when people are present and when they're not. Because how you are alone is the truth, is how you really are. It's just when you're around people, you might change that to have a little of a facade. But you can't do it forever because you're going to slip. You're going to fall into that trap that's going to bring your truth out. Number 15, guys, clarity strengthens the identity. Clarity strengthens identity. So when we're clear about things, our life starts to change. Our life starts to change. And when our life starts to change, the world becomes easier. And when that happens, we now gain this big dose of confidence. All right? A big dose of confidence. And that confidence dose is pretty amazing. I think that's an important thing to realize. To realize. Because that's the truth, guys. Number 16, guys, repetition locks in the behavior. Puts it in a groove, right? If you put a car, let's say on a track, many of you might remember the Pine Derbies, which I did when I was, actually I was a scout. I'm an Eagle Scout now, but when I was Cub Scout, you put the car on the track. And once the car was on the track, it pretty much stayed right in the groove. Once we get on a track, we stay there. Can we deviate from a track? Yes. But if we stay consistent and keep repeating the pattern, we're going to stay on the track. We're going to stay toward our goals. Number 17, guys, growth becomes visible. When growth becomes visible, we start to understand that life is different for us. Life is different for us when that happens. When that happens. I didn't say it's going to happen all the time, but when it happens, that changes things quite a bit. Quite a bit. And when I say quite a bit, I mean a very, very big, big change is present. And that change can affect how we view the world. And that's a perception, ladies and gentlemen. That is a perception. Number 18, stability replaces confusion. When we're stable, we're not confused. We're not, on which side should I be? Number 19, awareness strengthens the identity. When we're aware, I think I told you guys the story when I wrote my book, and that's all I'll go. Awareness of any subtle thing in life. When we become aware of that subtle thing, lots of things around us change and they shift. Sometimes they happen in such a perspective, and so slowly, like, doesn't seem like anything's happened, but really big changes are evolving. Number 20, guys, limitations will weaken us. So we have to find ways to actually not limit ourselves. We have to look at new possibilities. We have to look at things in different packages, because maybe when we look at things in certain packages, it means that we're expecting only that way. But if we know that things can come in other packages, we know there can be a big difference. Okay, we know there can be a huge, huge difference. And that can be scary for some people. Number 21, guys, new capabilities will emerge. When we are on the path, and if we don't have all the tools we need, and we're on that path, A, we'll find the tools. B, someone will teach us. Or C, we'll come into a way of doing it. That's what happens when you become in alignment with something. Number 22, guys, control increases. When we're calm, we're confident, we're in control, the world could be a mess around us, but suddenly we've changed because now we are in control. We are in control, and I think that's an important thing. That's important, guys. That's a very important thing to note. Okay, very, very important thing to note. Number 24, guys, identity will align as long as it is in congruence with our core values, with our truth. If we're trying to do something to become an alignment because somebody else is telling us, that may or may not work, because it may not be who we are. It may not be who we are. Number 25, guys, execution becomes natural. It becomes like a flow, like going down a river, right? Rivers flow downstream, right? Rivers don't flow up, they flow downstream. I think that's a very important thing to know. They flow downstream. Number 26, guys, habits define the outcomes. We're consistent, we're structured, okay? We're going to have great outcomes because of our habits, our consistent habits, not something we just did because of today. We're doing it every day. I think some people get frustrated because they've done these things, but then guess what happens? They don't actually go anywhere because, like, oh, you know what? I've been doing this for a few weeks. I'm going to stop. And ladies and gentlemen, the difference between somebody successful and not successful is this. A successful person just hangs on a second or two longer. That's it. And then they get the rewards, and guess what happens? That motivates them to keep going. But some people say, you know what? I'm tired. I don't want to do this. Number 27, guys, momentum supports the identity. When that epiphany happens and we get that natural influx from the dopamine of our brain, it's like, wow, right? Wow. Number 28, guys, thinking becomes structured. And the structure of our brain doesn't happen because we're forcing it. It happens naturally. I think a lot of people that are trying to be some successful are like, I'm trying so hard, but it's not working. You've got to just let things flow, and they will go in the direction you want. The more resistance you put on something, the harder it's going to be to get there. I've talked about friction before, resistance. We need friction to be able to walk, to be able to move things. If there's too much friction, right, the car won't go. We won't be able to walk. There's not enough flexibility for us to go through there. If the bridge is not flexible, when the wind blows, snap, it breaks. There's a balance, a delicate balance. Number 29, guys. Confidence stabilizes. When confidence stabilizes, we get another, I'm going to say, push that can make things amazing for us. We get a push, a very, very big push. That's important, guys. Number 30, guys, identity rebuild, and it completes. And if it needs to recycle again, it can. As these 30 stages unfold in your life over and over again for different projects, something important happens internally. People stop reacting to who they were. Not who they are, but who they were. And they start becoming who they are becoming. That shift, ladies and gentlemen, is not instant. And the people that want the instant gratification, well, they're going to be sadly disappointed. But if they hang on, they'll get more gratification in the delayed gratification than wanting the short-term gratification. It's layered, guys, and it's built through repetition, okay? Awareness and consistency. Old habits begin to weaken because they no longer align with new awareness, new habits from what we have formed because behavior begins adjusting to new understandings. Self-perception changes because experience forces correction. And confidence begins to rebuild, not from certainty, but from evidence. Behavior becomes intentional, guys, not reactive, not automatic, not autonomous, intentional. And intentional behavior is the foundation of success of identity rebuilding. As identity begins to stabilize, consistency becomes more important than intensity because intensity creates short-term change, but consistency creates identity permanence. Experience reshapes thinking over time because reality is a stronger teacher than assumption. And every repeated experience updates internal belief structures. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Be sure to check out believemeachieve.com for, of course, more of my amazing, inspiring creations, which you can do 24 hours a day now that the show is over at believemeachieve.com. Have yourself a great one, everyone. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, your identity defines who you are, and that defines your perceptions. And your perceptions create your reality, and your reality determines your success. Have a good one and be well, everyone.